Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the dimly lit bathroom, a solitary figure stood, unrecognizable even to himself. Beads of perspiration gathered on his forehead, their path interrupted by the unfamiliar silhouette in the mirror. He stared at the peculiar ensemble, his eyes lingering on the meticulously styled brown wig, an imperfect impersonator of his true identity. He felt the encumbrance of the ill-fitting red gown, a deceptive creation that concealed and contoured in equal parts. A casual observer would perceive a woman, but this 21st century disguise concealed a man, coerced into an unconventional choice for an evening's entertainment. "Tonight is the night," he whispered, his fingers unconsciously tugging at the edges of the dress, ensuring the silicone enhancements remained in place. "One night of this, and tomorrow. Angela." The name felt both foreign and familiar on his tongue. Foreign because he'd never introduced himself as Angela to another soul. Familiar because it was the name he'd whispered to himself during those private moments when the house was empty and the blinds were drawn. Nathaniel Miller had been secretly cross-dressing for years. What had begun as curiosity in college had evolved into something more meaningful, a way to express a part of himself that remained locked away during daylight hours. His apartment contained a hidden collection of dresses, wigs, and makeup that none of his coworkers at Preston Marketing Solutions could ever imagine. The irony wasn't lost on him. Losing the sales bet meant doing the very thing he secretly enjoyed, yet the prospect of being seen, of being judged, turned his stomach to knots. His phone buzzed with a text from Derek, his cubicle neighbor and the architect of this whole situation. "Cars outside. Timer starts now. No chickening out or you're buying drinks for the department for a month." Angela, applied one final coat of red lipstick to match the dress, grabbed a small black purse, and turned away from the mirror. The black stilettos clicked against the hardwood floor, each step a reminder of his transformation. The Uber driver barely looked up when Angela slid into the back seat. "Preston Hotel?" the driver confirmed, glancing in the rearview mirror. "Yes, please." The voice came out higher than intended, practiced, but still nervous. "Nice costume," the driver offered, before returning his attention to the road. Angela watched the city lights blur past the window. The Preston Hotel was only 15 minutes away, but each minute stretched into what felt like hours. Fingers fidgeted with the small black purse, checking for essentials. Phone, wallet, keys, and a travel-size makeup kit for emergency repairs. The hotel appeared too quickly. The grand entrance was decorated with oversized pumpkins and Gothic-inspired Halloween decorations. A banner hung above the revolving doors. "Preston Marketing Solutions, Annual Halloween Bash." Angela paid the driver and stepped out, wobbling slightly on the unfamiliar height of the heels. The October air bit through the thin fabric of the dress, raising goosebumps across exposed arms and legs. "You can do this," she repeated, this time under her breath. "One night." The hotel lobby buzzed with costumed colleagues. Pirates mingled with zombies. Superheroes chatted with movie characters. Angela stood frozen at the entrance, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. The weight of dozens of eyes turned in her direction, appraising the stunning woman in the tight red dress. Derek spotted her first, his mouth hanging open beneath his vampire makeup. He abandoned his conversation and crossed the room. "Holy shit," he whispered, circling Angela to take in the full transformation. "Nathaniel, is that really you under there?" Angela nodded, feeling her heartbeat quicken. The bet's terms were clear. Here I am. Dude, you went all out. I was expecting some half-assed Party City costume, not... Derek gestured broadly at Angela's appearance. This is commitment. You actually look hot. Like, legitimately attractive as a woman. It's freaking me out. The compliment, backhanded as it was, sent a strange thrill through Angela. Years of practicing makeup application, studying female mannerisms, and secretly buying clothes that flattered her frame had apparently paid off. Thanks, I guess. Angela tucked a strand of brown hair behind her ear, a gesture she'd observed countless times in movies. Can I get a drink now? I need something to take the edge off. Derek led her to the open bar, where a growing crowd of co-workers began to gather. Each reaction followed a similar pattern: initial confusion, dawning recognition, and then amazement at the transformation. No one suspected that this wasn't Angela's first time in a dress. No one guessed that the brown wig matched the exact shade Angela had selected for years of private dress-up sessions. Nathaniel? Christine from accounting approached, her witch's hat tilting precariously. I almost didn't recognize you. You make a prettier woman than I do. It's Angela tonight, she corrected gently, surprised by her own boldness. And thank you. The dress was a lucky find. The lie came easily. The dress had actually been purchased months ago during a late-night online shopping spree, hanging in the back of her closet with the tag still attached, waiting for an excuse to be worn. As the night progressed, Angela found herself relaxing into the role. The vodka tonics helped, but more than that, there was a freedom in being acknowledged as Angela. Colleagues who barely spoke to Nathaniel during office hours now engaged in animated conversations. The marketing director complimented her makeup technique. The head of HR asked where she had found such perfect heels. For the first time, Angela felt seen, truly seen, even if everyone thought it was just an elaborate costume. The party was in full swing when Martin Preston Jr. entered the ballroom. The son of the company's founder stood in stark contrast to the costumed revelers in his tailored navy suit. Fresh from a business trip, he hadn't bothered with a costume, yet somehow managed to command attention with his mere presence. Angela had interacted with Martin Jr. only a handful of times during her 4 years at the company. As head of business development, he rarely mingled with the marketing team, except during quarterly presentations. Nathaniel had always found him intimidating, not just because of his position, but because of the quiet intensity he carried. Martin Jr. made his way through the crowd, stopping to chat briefly with department heads and longtime employees. Angela turned back to her conversation with the creative team, determined to avoid direct interaction with the boss's son.
Excuse me,
a deep voice interrupted from behind.
I don't believe we've met.
Angela turned to find Martin Jr. standing closer than expected, his eyes a startling blue under the ballroom lights. She hesitated, momentarily caught between identities. Angela Miller.
Martin Preston Jr.
He extended his hand, which Angela accepted. His grip was firm but not overpowering.
Are you new to the company?
A flush of panic raced through her body. He didn't recognize her. Nathaniel had presented quarterly marketing analytics to this man just 2 weeks ago, and now, transformed into Angela, she was unrecognizable. Again, that hesitation. The creative team exchanged knowing glances, waiting for the reveal.
She's Nathaniel from marketing,
Derek interjected with a grin.
Won our costume contest before it even began.
Martin's expression shifted from polite interest to genuine surprise. His eyes moved across Angela's features, searching for the familiar parts of Nathaniel within the feminine presentation.
Nathaniel Miller?
Martin stepped back, reassessing.
That's remarkable. I wouldn't have guessed in a million years.
Angela braced herself for the uncomfortable joke, the awkward comment about men in dresses, or worse, a dismissive remark that would sting for days to come. Instead, Martin smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes.
You're absolutely convincing. I mean it as a compliment.
Thank you, Angela replied, relief washing over her. It took longer than I care to admit.
The attention to detail shows,
Martin continued, his gaze lingering.
The whole marketing department lost a bet to you.
Derek jumped in to explain the quarterly sales competition and the forfeit terms while Angela sipped her drink, watching Martin's reactions. He seemed genuinely amused by the story, occasionally glancing at Angela with an expression she couldn't quite read. When Derek finished the explanation, Martin turned fully to Angela.
Would you mind if I borrowed you for a moment? I'd love to introduce you to some of our clients who are here tonight. They'd get a kick out of this.
Before she could respond, Angela found herself being guided through the crowd, Martin's hand lightly touching the small of her back. The gesture was so natural, so protective, that it sent an unexpected warmth through her body. For the next hour, Angela charmed client after client, playing up the costume angle while demonstrating a deep knowledge of their accounts. Knowledge that Angela shouldn't possess, but Nathaniel certainly did. Martin remained close, occasionally joining the conversation with business insights, but mostly watching Angela with growing interest. During a lull between introductions, Martin leaned close.
You're quite good at this.
At what? Angela asked, suddenly aware of their proximity.
Being Angela,
he replied simply. It seems to come naturally to you. The comment hit too close to home, and Angela felt her carefully constructed facade waver. It's just a costume.
Is it?
Martin's gaze was direct, searching.
You know, Halloween is interesting. Sometimes the costumes we choose reveal more about us than our everyday attire.
Before Angela could process this strangely perceptive observation, the DJ announced the last hour of the party and transitioned to slower music. Couples gravitated toward the dance floor, swaying to a mellowed version of an 80s ballad. Would you care to dance? Martin extended his hand. A dozen reasons to decline flashed through Angela's mind. Office politics, professional boundaries, the complications that would arise if she were seen slow dancing with the boss's son, yet she found herself placing her hand in his. One dance? On the dance floor, Martin maintained a respectful distance while still holding her close enough to speak without raising his voice. His right hand rested lightly on her waist, his left holding her right hand with unexpected gentleness.
You know,
he said after they had established a rhythm,
I've always found our quarterly meetings interesting.
Angela tensed. Oh?
Your analysis is always thorough, but I've noticed you hold back during presentations. Like there's more you want to say, but don't.
The observation was startlingly accurate. Nathaniel had always been cautious in meetings, presenting the data without venturing too far into recommendations that might challenge the status quo. Perhaps Nathaniel is just being professional, Angela replied carefully, maintaining the third-person distinction. Martin's smile deepened.
And what would Angela recommend for our fourth quarter strategy?
The question felt like a test, but also an opportunity. With the slight buffer of being Angela, she found herself sharing insights she'd kept to herself during formal meetings. Ideas about targeting younger demographics through emerging platforms, reallocating budget from traditional media, restructuring the creative team for faster response times. Martin listened intently, occasionally asking pointed questions that revealed his own deep understanding of marketing principles. As the song ended and another began, neither made a move to leave the dance floor.
You know,
Martin said during their third dance,
you have remarkable eyes. They're quite distinctive.
Angela felt her pulse quicken. Thank you.
In fact,
he continued, his voice dropping lower,
I recognize them immediately. The same eyes that light up whenever we discuss market segmentation in our quarterly meetings.
A cold flood of panic washed over Angela. You knew?
Not at first,
Martin admitted.
But after a few minutes of conversation, absolutely.
And you asked me to dance anyway? Martin's hand tightened slightly on her waist, a reassuring pressure.
I asked you to dance because I've wanted to have a real conversation with you for months.
Nathaniel always seems to vanish from office functions before I can engage beyond work discussions. It was true. Nathaniel had deliberately avoided company social events whenever possible, fearing that extended personal interaction might somehow expose his private life. I'm not sure what to say, Angela admitted.
You don't need to say anything,
Martin replied.
But I would like to ask you something.
He hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain.
Your watch.
Angela glanced down at her wrist, where her everyday timepiece remained. A vintage Omega Seamaster with a distinctive navy face, a gift from her grandfather. In the rush to transform into Angela, she had forgotten to remove this masculine accessory, the one element that clashed with her otherwise flawless feminine presentation. It was my grandfather's, she explained, feeling oddly vulnerable. I wear it every day.
I noticed it during your presentation last month,
Martin said.
It caught the light when you were gesturing toward the projection screen. I remember thinking it suited you. Elegant, but not flashy. Authentic.
The word authentic hung between them, carrying more weight than seemed possible for 6 syllables. Martin, Angela began, unsure where the sentence was heading.
Would you have coffee with me tomorrow?
He interrupted, his usual confidence returning.
Not as my employee, not as a costume, just coffee.
The request hung in the air as the music shifted again. Around them, costumed colleagues continued dancing, oblivious to the significant conversation occurring in their midst. People would talk, Angela finally responded, neither accepting nor declining.
People always talk, Martin countered. The question is whether we let that dictate our lives.
The dance ended, and Martin stepped back slightly, but maintained gentle contact with her hand.
Think about it. No pressure either way.
He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a business card, turning it over to reveal his personal number scrawled on the back.
If you decide yes, text me. If not, we'll continue our professional relationship without any awkwardness. You have my word.
Angela accepted the card, tucking it into her purse as Martin excused himself to speak with another executive who had been trying to catch his attention. Left alone on the edge of the dance floor, Angela felt simultaneously exposed and exhilarated. Martin had seen through her costume, not just the Halloween disguise, but the everyday disguise of Nathaniel, and rather than recoiling, he had drawn closer. Derek appeared at her side, his vampire makeup smudged from hours of socializing. Did I just see you slow dancing with Martin Preston Jr.? Holy shit, Nate, you're really committing to this whole thing. The name, Nate, jarred Angela. It suddenly sounded wrong. like clothing that had shrunk in the wash. "It's Angela tonight, remember?" she corrected, more firmly than before. Derek raised his hands in mock surrender.
Right. Angela, sorry."
He leaned closer, lowering his voice.
"But seriously, what was that about? Junior never socializes at these things."
"Just discussing some marketing ideas," Angela deflected, unwilling to share the true nature of their conversation. The party began winding down around midnight. Costumed employees said their goodbyes, some heading home, while others planned to continue the celebration at nearby bars. Angela declined all after-party invitations, citing exhaustion. The Uber ride home was quiet, giving Angela space to process the evening's events. The business card with Martin's number seemed to burn through her purse, demanding attention. The weight of decision pressed down, not just about coffee with Martin, but about everything the evening had stirred within her. Back in her apartment, Angela stood before the same bathroom mirror where the night had begun. The reflection was different now, slightly smudged makeup, hair slightly displaced from dancing, a flush of color across her cheeks that hadn't been there hours before. With practiced movements, Angela removed the wig, revealing short brown hair beneath. The dress followed, then the breast forms, the shapewear, the carefully applied makeup. Layer by layer, Angela disappeared, leaving Nathaniel staring back from the mirror. But something had changed. The removal of Angela's external trappings didn't silence her internal presence. If anything, after being acknowledged and seen by others, by Martin, she felt more real than ever before. Nathaniel showered, scrubbing away the last traces of makeup. Wrapped in a robe, he retrieved the business card from the purse and stared at the handwritten number. Beneath it, Martin had added a small note that Nathaniel hadn't noticed before. "Coffee with either of you would be my pleasure." The message was clear. Martin wasn't just interested in Angela, the stunning woman in the red dress. He saw value in both aspects of the person he'd interacted with. Sleep came fitfully that night, dreams blending memories of the dance floor with imagined scenarios of coffee dates and continuing conversations. By morning, Nathaniel had made a decision. The text was simple. "Coffee sounds perfect, but I should clarify something first." Martin's response came within minutes. "I'm listening." Nathaniel's fingers hovered over the screen. Truth required vulnerability, yet after last night, concealment seemed both impossible and undesirable. "Angela isn't just a Halloween costume for me. She's part of who I am, though I've never shared that with anyone until now." The 3 dots indicating Martin's typing appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, "I suspected as much. Your comfort and authenticity are what matter to me. Coffee as Nathaniel, coffee as Angela, or something in between. I'm interested in getting to know you, however you feel most yourself." Relief washed over Nathaniel, followed by a surge of something unfamiliar, hope, perhaps, or the lightness that comes with being accepted. They arranged to meet that afternoon at a small cafe 20 minutes from the city center, far enough from the office to avoid workplace gossip, but public enough to maintain propriety. Standing before the closet, Nathaniel faced the most significant wardrobe decision of his life. The men's section contained the safe options, button-downs, slacks, sweaters that had carried him through years of careful professional anonymity. The hidden women's section, tucked behind winter coats, offered riskier choices. Dresses and blouses that felt right but exposed vulnerabilities he'd protected for decades. In the end, Nathaniel chose neither extreme. Dark jeans that could belong to any gender. A soft, burgundy sweater purchased from the women's department but ambiguous enough to pass casual inspection. Small pearl stud earrings that had never left his apartment before. The makeup was minimal, just enough to soften features without announcing itself. And most significantly, the brown wig remained in its box. Instead, after showering, Nathaniel styled his own hair differently, working with rather than against its natural wave. It wasn't long, but with the right products, it framed his face in a way that felt harmonious rather than jarring. The person who left the apartment that afternoon wasn't fully Nathaniel, nor completely Angela, but something new, something authentic that borrowed from both without being confined by either. The cafe was warm and half empty when she arrived. Martin sat at a corner table with 2 steaming mugs, his attention focused on a document until the bell above the door announced her entry. His eyes met hers, recognition immediate, followed by a warm smile that carried no judgment. "I took the liberty of ordering," he explained as she approached. "Earl Grey with a splash of milk, if I remembered correctly from the office kitchen." The fact that he had noticed this small detail from workplace interactions touched her deeply. "Perfect memory." "I pay attention to what matters," Martin replied simply. "You look lovely, by the way." "Thank you." She settled into the chair across from him, suddenly aware that they hadn't discussed names. "I'm not sure what to call myself today." Martin considered this. "What feels right to you?" After a moment's reflection, she responded, "Angela, I think I'd like to be Angela outside the office, at least for now." "Angela, it is." Martin raised his mug in a small toast. "To proper introductions." They clinked mugs gently, and the conversation flowed with surprising ease. Martin shared stories from his early days, learning the family business, his time studying abroad, his passion for restoring vintage motorcycles, a hobby that seemed at odds with his polished professional image. Angela spoke about her background in marketing, her collection of first-edition mystery novels, her dream of someday living in a cottage by the sea. They carefully navigated around the complexities of their workplace connection, tacitly agreeing that professional boundaries would need to be maintained regardless of where their personal relationship might lead.
"I have a question,"
Martin said, as they ordered a second round of drinks.
"And please, feel free not to answer if it's too personal."
Angela tensed slightly, but nodded for him to continue. "Last night, was that the first time you've been Angela in public?" The question was direct, but asked with genuine interest rather than judgment. Angela appreciated the straightforwardness. "Yes and no," she replied carefully. "I've gone out a few times in neighboring towns where no one knows me. Brief excursions, dinner alone, a movie, window shopping. But last night was the first time people who know Nathaniel met Angela." Martin nodded thoughtfully. "That took courage?" "It wasn't courage," Angela admitted. "It was a lost bet. But once it started," she searched for the right words, "it felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for years."
"And now?"
Martin asked gently. "After exhaling?" The question penetrated to the heart of everything Angela had been considering since the party. "Now I'm not sure I want to go back to holding my breath." Martin reached across the table, his hand resting near hers without presuming to take it. "For what it's worth, I think people should be able to breathe freely." Angela moved her hand the remaining distance until their fingers touched. "Even if it complicates things?" "Especially then," Martin replied, his thumb brushing lightly across her knuckles.
"The most worthwhile things in life usually come with complications."
Their coffee date extended into early evening, neither willing to end the conversation that had covered everything from childhood memories to philosophical perspectives on authenticity and self-expression. When they finally left the cafe, the autumn sun was setting, casting long shadows across the street.
"May I walk you home?"
Martin asked, maintaining a respectful distance as they stood on the sidewalk. Angela hesitated. Her apartment contained visible evidence of her dual life, the organization of closet space, the makeup collection, the books on gender expression hidden on the lower shelf. Letting Martin into that space meant exposing the full extent of her journey. "Perhaps not today," she decided. "But I've enjoyed this more than I can express." Martin nodded, understanding without need for explanation.
"Would it be too forward to ask about seeing you again? Perhaps dinner next weekend?"
"I'd like that," Angela replied, surprised by how easily the truth flowed now that one significant secret had been shared.
"Very much. Until then."
Martin leaned forward slowly, giving her ample time to step back if desired, and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek.
"Thank you for trusting me with who you are."
The following weeks unfolded with a rhythm that felt both new and natural. At work, Nathaniel maintained professional interactions with Martin Jr., their conversations focusing entirely on marketing strategies and client accounts. Colleagues who had seen them dancing at the Halloween party quickly lost interest when no workplace drama materialized. On weekends and occasional evenings, Angela and Martin explored their growing connection away from corporate scrutiny. They discovered shared interests in independent films, historical architecture, and hole-in-the-wall restaurants that served authentic cuisine from around the world. Angela experimented with her appearance during these dates, sometimes presenting more femininely with dresses and carefully applied makeup, other times adopting a softer, androgynous look. Her brown hair, grown out slightly longer than Nathaniel had ever worn it, became a signature feature, regardless of how she dressed. Martin responded to each variation with the same attentive interest, making it clear that his attraction wasn't limited to any single presentation. 6 weeks after the Halloween party, Angela stood in her apartment preparing for their 7th date. Martin had invited her to dinner at his home, a significant step that would take them beyond the relative safety of public venues. The burgundy dress laid out on the bed represented more than just an outfit choice. It was a declaration of intent, a commitment to bringing her authentic self into Martin's private space. Next to it sat a carefully wrapped package, a gift she'd spent weeks considering. The doorbell rang 15 minutes before Martin was expected to pick her up. Puzzled, Angela checked her appearance in the mirror. Dress smoothed into place, brown hair styled in loose waves, makeup enhancing rather than masking her features. Before answering, Martin stood in the hallway holding a bouquet of autumn flowers.
"I know I'm early,"
he apologized. "I was too excited to wait." The simple admission of eagerness made Angela smile. "Come in. I just need a few more minutes." Martin entered the apartment, taking in the space with curious eyes. The decoration was minimal but tasteful. Bookshelves lined with literature and marketing texts, a comfortable sofa positioned to catch the afternoon light, framed black and white photographs of coastal landscapes. "Make yourself comfortable," Angela offered, gesturing toward the living room. "Would you like something to drink?" "I'm fine, thank you." Martin remained standing, seeming slightly nervous, an unusual state for someone typically so composed.
"Actually, I have something I want to say before we head out."
Angela felt her heartbeat accelerate. "Oh?" Martin set the flowers on the entry table and took a deep breath.
"These past weeks have been extraordinary. Getting to know you, all aspects of you, has been the most meaningful connection I've experienced."
Angela remained silent, sensing that Martin was building toward something important.
I've been thinking about what comes next, he continued. Our current arrangement of maintaining strict professionalism at work while exploring our relationship privately is becoming challenging for me.
A knot formed in Angela's stomach. Was this the beginning of an ending? Had the complications finally outweighed the connection? Challenging how? She asked, proud that her voice remained steady. Martin stepped closer, reaching for her hands. Because I'm falling in love with you, and pretending that we're merely colleagues for 8 hours a day is increasingly difficult. The declaration hung in the air between them, simultaneously weighty and liberating. Martin, Angela began, but he gently interrupted. Please let me finish. I've spoken with my father about restructuring our department reporting. As of next week, the marketing team will report directly to Christina as VP, removing any direct line between us professionally. Angela processed this information. You spoke to your father about us?
Not in detail,
Martin clarified.
I simply said that I wanted to pursue a personal relationship with someone in the marketing department, and that I understood the need to adjust the reporting structure accordingly.
And he agreed? More than agreed. He said it was about time I found someone who made me consider such changes. Martin's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. The point is, I want us to have the freedom to explore what we're building without corporate politics hanging over us. Angela felt a complex mixture of emotions, gratitude for his foresight, appreciation for his commitment, but also a lingering anxiety about greater visibility. That solves one complication, she acknowledged. But there are others. The world isn't always kind to people like me.
I know,
Martin said simply.
And I can't promise that every moment will be easy. What I can promise is that I'll be beside you through whatever comes.
He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box.
This isn't a proposal. At least not for marriage. Not yet. But it is a promise.
Opening the box revealed a vintage watch, a women's Omega with a delicate mother-of-pearl face, the perfect feminine complement to the grandfather's watch Angela still wore daily.
Something old that can be new,
Martin explained,
like the parts of yourself you're bringing into the light.
Tears formed in Angela's eyes as she recognized the thoughtfulness behind the gift. It's beautiful.
There's an inscription,
Martin added, turning the watch over to reveal elegant engraving on the back. To Angela. For all the moments to come. I have something for you too, Angela admitted, retrieving the wrapped package from her bedroom. Though it seems we were thinking along similar lines. Martin unwrapped the gift carefully, revealing a leather-bound journal with his initials embossed on the cover. Inside, Angela had written on the first page, "For recording our story as it unfolds, beginning with a Halloween party that changed everything."
I love it,
Martin said softly, running his fingers over the inscription.
And I love you, Nathaniel, Angela, and every facet in between.
Angela moved forward into his embrace, the final barriers falling away. I love you too. Thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me, when I was still learning to see myself. Their dinner reservation waited, the first of many evenings they would share. But for now, they remained in the apartment where Angela had first emerged, holding each other in the quiet understanding that sometimes the most powerful transformations aren't about costumes or appearances, but about finding the courage to be recognized for who you truly are. Angela nestled against Martin's chest, feeling his heartbeat through the fabric of his shirt. The journey had begun with a lost bet and a red dress, but it would continue with something far more valuable: the freedom to breathe without constraint, to love without pretense, and to live as her authentic self. Brown hair catching the light as she stepped boldly into a future without disguises.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!